Where do the limits of imagination lie, and how can we push them even further? Some of that is up to us, but of course we can give ourselves a helping hand. The NIKKOR Z 35mm f1.2S is here. Yes, indeed, a new member of the f1.2S family, the NIKKOR Z 35mm 1.2S. Now, that short film that you just saw as the opening was shot on the 35mm 1.2, and every shot, except for the few that you saw of me holding the lens, was shot at 1.2. And right now we are shooting on the 35mm 1.2S, and you can just see how wonderful the background looks. Now, what's amazing about the power of 1.2 and a lens like this is we are shooting at 1/50th of a second at 1.2 at ISO 1600, and as we can see, the image looks amazing. Now, I've got a little fill light here. This is the halo light filling me out, and it is running at its absolute minimum power, 1%. And I'm about 4 or 5 feet, around 1.5 meters from the camera. This lens is epic. Where do we start? It has every coating that Nikon has is on this lens. It's the only one that has all 3 of them. Size-wise, yes, it's similar in size to the 50mm 1.2, the 85, as well as the Plena. Clearly, Nikon have a plan here to make all of these super optics similar in size. And the idea here is it's for the person who do not want to compromise on image fidelity. That is the number one most important thing to them. That makes a lot of sense to me, that if you want to be able to go for the best of the best in class, then you can. And if you want smaller and lighter, sure, you can go for that. There's plenty of options, but this will deliver optically, as we've seen with the 50mm 1.2, the 85 1.2, and in the Plena. But all four of these lenses, to me, they are in the same family. Yes, the Plena is a 1.8, but these primes, they give you the best of the best. And we can see here with this rendering, being able to shoot at night, and where are we? We are 11:24 at night, because I do have to shoot with these lenses when I'm out in public under the cover of darkness. Now I just want to capture some quick B-roll. One quick way I can do that when I'm short on crew is with my iPhone. And if you connect a USB-C drive to certain iPhones, you can record directly to a hard drive. And this hard drive right here from Novachips, which is Magsafe as well, and is 2 terabytes. And then we can just get some ProRes footage. There it is. There is the epically, massively awesome 1.2 in the field. There we have it. Looking amazing. And just so easy to just capture some cheeky B-roll. I'm not going to do all my B-roll this style when you've got only so many hands. I've been shooting with this lens for 2 or 3 weeks, and I've been blown away by its capacity to capture the moment. What was really important to me about that opening film is shooting in low light and shooting quickly in low light and still getting outstanding outcomes. Shooting into the sun and shooting for video. Like all of these lenses that we're talking about, this family of lenses, it doesn't really matter what you throw at them. They work brilliantly. Now this lens, of course, is going to work with every Z mount camera, from the Z30 all the way through to the Z9. I'm just so excited about the rendering of this lens that I wanted to show you just a short list, just to show you how impressed I am with these files, how little needs to be done, and sometimes nothing needs to be done in order to, well, make them just pop. And you can find the metadata sitting up here at the top. An image like this I love because of the capacity to have a relatively wide angle of view. We still have this gorgeous short depth of field, allowing you to have this unbelievable rendering. No software has been able to create profiles for this brand new lens. I do know, for example, that PhotoLab 8 will give us a profile as soon as they've had a chance to create it, which actually requires them getting hold of a copy of the lens. I would expect, with this being such a high profile lens, we will see a profile ASAP. The highly textured walls, stickers, paste ups, graffiti, and you can just see how beautifully it renders and how sharp it is. The capacity for this lens, even over quite large distances, to still create a short depth of field, yet look at how sharp and how beautifully rendered these shoelaces are. There's all the detail, there is the texture, you can see the individual fibers, and yet everything else is just falling off. This lens is not only sharp, but somehow it's soft and beautiful at the same time. I have added a little bit of extra vignetting on the corners here in order to enhance interest on the center of the image. I just love the mood that's generated with this practical lighting that's coming out of the bar. There is such a small amount of lighting in this room, yet we can still make it work with this lens and appropriate field craft. This image is taken at 1/2 of a second. This is the setting sun. Manually dial up the correct exposure, and to get outstanding results like this. Something I love about DxO PhotoLab is the Nik collection, and then we can go and create, using silver effects, a black and white, and the capacity for this software to create black and whites, basically a mid shot, and if you went vertical this would be a full body shot, yet the background is completely blurred out. Again, this is my absolute happy place. For a very short amount of time, this is what the sky looked like, and then I loved the idea of getting these textures in the foreground, and then we've got these gorgeous sun rays. To me, this is just a beautiful impressionistic
stylistic vibe that really gives me a sense of what was going on in that moment. This gentleman's only taking up about a third of the frame, and yet the background is falling off oh so beautifully. To me, this is just an astonishing capability to be able to create a portrait like this. And for portrait photographers, wedding photographers, news, documentary, all sorts of use cases, this is just a gorgeous look. To be able to capture an image like this where the city is absolutely sharp and in focus, and we have these other elements going on, kind of never really been able to take images like this before. Yes, I've been able to do it with the 50mm and the 85mm. Those 1.2 lenses are astonishing, but this is a little bit wider, around 30% more frame, 30% more width. If we're standing in the same spot and changing from a 35 to a 50mm, it's allowing the opportunity for me to create frames that I've never seen before. I don't know what else I can ask for with this sort of scenario. This to me is an absolute dream shot. Bring in a client, bring in a portrait, have them standing there on the alleyway on the left hand side, and that is an absolute cracker of a shot. I mean, it's a cracker of a shot with or without them. Bokeh balls, yes, they're round in the middle and they do become lemony towards the edges, and I'm okay with that. As we've talked about many times in the past, every lens does bokeh its own way, and I'm happy with what this is doing here. We don't have any sign of onion rings at all. This is quite beautiful, quite soft. It's the out of focus rendering of this lens which I probably love the most, but I also love the rendering when it's in focus as well. It's getting both parts of this right.
Since 2020, when the 50mm 1.2S was first released, over the last 4 years, Nikon has now released these 4 extraordinary lenses: the 35 1.2, the 50 1.2, the 85 1.2, and the 135 1.8 Plena, which allows me as a photographic practitioner and a creator to be able to see things, whether it's in bright sunlight or whether it's nighttime, and be able to capture, along with cameras like the Z6 III, with the Z8 and the Z9 being able to shoot at 1/32,000th of a second with the electronic shutter. This allows you to capture with apertures of 1.2 in bright sunlight. The Z6 III goes to 1/16,000th of a second. And then in darkness, as we can see with my images and video, this lens has no problems at all to be able to achieve almost anything that we can think of and almost anything that we face. It's extraordinary. We know that these days all of these lenses are near on perfection, and as time passes they get better and better. But it's more than just optical perfection, it's also rendering. And somehow Nikon is giving us optical brilliance along with beautiful rendering, which you actually often find in those out of focus areas in the background that I love so much. And this lens does it in spades. To basically have a wide standard prime that allows you to get this level of depth of field, even when your subject is at quite a distance, like we can see here on the pier, this is beautiful. This is the whole point today, that the cameras that we use exist. This differentiates us from all other types of medium, and that is critical as a creator looking and trying to create things that we haven't seen before, along with a professional practitioner who is also trying to give their clients the edge, to give them something new, to give them something beautiful and whimsical. These optics are absolutely extraordinary, and I look forward to showing you so much more of the practicality and versatility of this 35mm lens. Now, as I said before, one thing that Nikon is doing here is not compromising on optics. Because of course, some are going to say, yes, these lenses are not small. That's not the point. That is not why Nikon creates them. You can buy their 40mm 2.0 or the 35 1.8 or the 35 1.4 if you're looking for something smaller, lighter, easier. But if you are looking for something that is outstanding and makes you stand out, well, this is the optic. And it's without compromise. These lenses are very similar sizes, which segues us over nicely to specs. The filter on all of these lenses is 82mm. Speaking of filters, I will always use a filter like this. This is the R-Crest 1.2 from Nikon. This is a protective filter. It is simply designed to protect. As you would have seen in the opening of this video, I was shooting at the beach in extremely high winds with the air coming off the bay. This was salty, humid air. And if you point your lens in the direction of where that wind is coming from, you are going to get fine salt particles on the front element of your lens. And a lens hood, as useful and as wonderful as they are for some types of protection, they don't protect against everything. And because I shoot in all types of environments, I am always using protective filters on the front elements, especially of these higher priced lenses. This lens is going to be 4,899 Australian dollars including tax, and in the US it is $2,799 excluding tax. So yes, indeed, I definitely want to be protecting the front element of these lenses here, and because Nikon make the R-Crest 2 filters, I am confident they are going to be providing the utmost in optical rendering and of course protection. This is critical for me when you invest this much in a lens. If you are interested in experimenting with the R-Crest 2 filters, there are discount links below this video, along with other items in this video, including the Novachips 2TB SSD and PhotoLabs. This lens has 17 elements in 15 groups. At full frame 35mm, it is a 63-degree field of view. In APS-C, it is a 44-degree field of view. There are 11 rounded aperture blades. The minimum focus is 0.3 meters or just shy of 1 foot. The reproduction ratio is 0.2 times. The weight is roughly 1,060 grams and the size is 90mm by 150mm or 3.6 inches by 6 inches. Those coatings, nano crystal coat, Arneo coat and the meso amorphous coat, are all on the 35mm 1.2S. There are dual stepper motors in this lens to ensure swift focus. And the focus operation on this lens is linear. Focus breathing is highly suppressed. You can put your orders in for this lens right now and it will be shipping later this month. I'll be putting my order in. I am so excited about this lens. Who's it for? Well, it's for videographers, street photographers, portrait photographers, event photographers, landscape photographers, astrophotographers. It has so many use cases, almost every type of use case. Maybe not action and wildlife, but you never know. It depends how close you get to the action. For example, I could see it being used in sports like boxing, basketball, when you can get close to the court and you want to get that really stylistic shot. One thing I have to say is it's almost identical to the 50mm 1.2. From a size perspective, the 35 is just ever so slightly smaller, but otherwise the design is very, very similar. There is no longer a screen on the top of the lens. We have a function button where the screen was, as well as on the side, the AF/MF switch here. The control ring, which is programmable with things like aperture and ISO, and this beautiful, very resistant focus ring, as I said before, is a linear focus ring, which means you can do these amazing slow focus pulls, and they look absolutely beautiful. From a cinematography perspective, this lens is outstanding. And of course, it's built with Nikon's usual level of build quality, materials, and weather resistance. I would expect nothing less from this absolutely premium lens. All right, everybody. Well, it's been so good to see you. And do please let me know in the comments below, is the 35mm 1.2S for you? Are you excited? And if you are excited about it, what might you use it for? What is your use case? Is it astro? Is it sports? Is it landscape? This lens is fantastic at all of those things and more. It's been so good to see you, and if this is your first time here, I would love to see you again, so please do subscribe, please share, and please like. All right, bye for now.